All right, so you want to like really take your English to the next level, right? I mean, beyond just the basics to where you can handle anything.
Exactly. It's like going from, just getting by to really being able to express yourself, with nuance.
Yeah, nuance. So in this deep dive, that's exactly what we're doing, exploring words and phrases that most learners might not know. It's like unlocking a secret code to fluency.
It is. It's like having this whole extra layer of language at your disposal. And it's not just about sounding smart.
Right. It's about understanding those subtle things, how people really use English in everyday life.
Yeah, and how you can use it too. Like imagine being able to perfectly describe that person who, they just drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Or you're in this tricky situation and you just need the right phrase to nail it.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to uncover today, words and phrases to deal with all sorts of situations, from social stuff to really expressing your feelings. We've got idioms, slang, the whole shebang.
I'm excited to dive in.
Me too. Okay, so where should we start? How about those tricky social situations? You meet someone new and you want to describe them, but you don't want to just say nice or mean.
Right, because those are just so basic, and sometimes they don't really capture the whole picture.
Yeah, so let's get more specific. For example, one word that stood out to me from our research was dog's body. What do you make of that one?
Dog's body. It's not just a servant, right? It's more like you're the one stuck with all the crappy jobs, the ones nobody else wants.
Yeah, like you're at the bottom of the totem pole.
Exactly. So it really highlights a power dynamic, where someone's being taken advantage of.
Ooh, I feel like we've all been there at some point in our lives. Okay, what about this phrase, off the record? Now, I always think of gossip when I hear that.
It's really gossip. It's like you're sharing this juicy secret, but you make it clear, hey, this stays between us.
Right. Total confidentiality.
But, and this is important, it also has this serious side, especially in professional settings.
Oh, yeah, like if someone says off the record, I think, and then they tell you something sensitive.
Exactly. It's like they're giving you this inside scoop, but they don't want to be officially quoted. High stakes.
So it's all about context with that one, understanding what off the record really means in the moment. Okay, here's one that I think we can all relate to rub someone up the wrong way.
Yes, those people who just have a knack for annoying us.
Sometimes, without even trying, right?
Oh, absolutely. But sometimes it's intentional. They're doing it on purpose.
Interesting. But even if it's unintentional, it's still important to understand why someone rubs us the wrong way, right?
Yeah, because it could be a personality clash, maybe different communication styles.
So maybe it's not that they're a bad person, just that we don't quite mesh well.
Right. And that's where understanding these subtle social cues can really help. Okay, so we've got those tricky personalities down. Now let's move on to something a bit more fun. Idioms.
Oh yeah, I love idioms. They're like little puzzles that paint these vivid pictures.
Exactly. And they add so much color to your language, making it more interesting and engaging.
All right, so let's crack open one of these puzzles. What about clutching at straws? It sounds kind of desperate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Think about it like this. You're in a really tough situation. You've tried everything, and now you're just grabbing at anything, even if it's a long shot.
Like applying for jobs you're totally unqualified for, or trying to fix a relationship that's clearly over.
Exactly. Clutching at straws. It's that last-ditch effort when all else has failed. And we've all been there at some point, right?
Yeah, totally. It's a universal human experience. Okay, here's another one making a mockery of. That's not just a simple complaint, is it?
No, it's more intense, like you're saying. This is so wrong, it's almost laughable.
Yeah, like it completely undermines the whole point of something.
Right. Like imagine a rule is supposed to make things fair, but then someone finds a loophole and uses it to their advantage. You could say they're making a mockery of the whole system.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, I'm loving these idioms. What else do we have?
Well, how about we spice things up a bit with some slang?
Oh, yeah, slang. It's like the secret handshake of fluency.
It is. It adds that informality, that sense of, being in the know.
Okay, hit me with a good one. What's on our slang list?
How about gobsmacked? It's a fantastic word for expressing total astonishment.
Gobsmacked. I like it. So, if you see something totally unexpected, something that just blows you away.
Exactly. Like you're speechless, your jaw is on the floor.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try to use gobsmacked this week. But, with all slang, it's got to be the right time and place, right?
Oh, absolutely. Context is key. You wouldn't use gobsmacked in a formal meeting, but it'd be perfect with friends.
So it's all about being streetwise with your slang choices.
Exactly. And being streetwise is more than just knowing slang. It's about having that awareness of your surroundings, that social intelligence to navigate different situations.
Like knowing when to speak up, when to stay quiet, when to blend in, when to stand out.
It's that sixth sense that keeps you safe and helps you thrive in any environment. Okay, so we've covered some social situations, delved into idioms, and even dipped our toes into the slang pool.
I feel like my English brain is getting a serious workout. What else is on our vocabulary adventure today?
Well, we've only just scratched the surface. There's a whole world of nuanced words waiting to be explored, from describing those tricky in-between feelings to uncovering the power dynamics hidden within everyday language.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. I can't wait to delve into that. But for now, let's pause here and let all this awesome vocabulary sink in. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into advanced everyday English.
See you soon.
Welcome back. I'm really enjoying this, just diving into these words and phrases that we use all the time but don't always think about deeply. Me too. It's amazing how many layers of meaning there are to uncover, even in those seemingly simple, everyday words. Before we took a little pause, you mentioned words that describe those tricky feelings, the ones that are hard to pin down. I'm really curious about that. What kind of words are we talking about here?
Well, think about those times when you're not exactly happy or sad, but somewhere in between,
Yeah.
Like maybe you're feeling a bit uneasy or perhaps a little jaded.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Uneasy, like that feeling of apprehension. Not quite fear, but not exactly comfortable either.
Exactly. One of our sources describes uneasy as a feeling of being unsure, fearful, or anxious. They even give this example of someone feeling uneasy about hiring a new employee because they came across as a bit cocky in the interview.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you have this gut feeling that something's not quite right, but you can't put your finger on it.
And that's why it's so important to pay attention to those subtle feelings, those uneasy vibes, because they can often be warning signs. What about jaded? Does that word resonate with you at all?
Jaded? It's like when you've seen it all before, nothing really excites you anymore.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Like you're tired, almost cynical because you've been disappointed too many times.
One of our sources talks about feeling jaded from having to catch up on a backlog of paperwork. We've all been there, right?
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of just being drained and unmotivated, like what's the point?
Exactly. Okay, so moving on from those tricky emotions, let's look at words that describe people's personalities, those character traits that really make them who they are. One word that jumped out at me from our research was pompous.
Ooh, pompous. Not a very flattering word, is it?
Definitely not. It's like that person who thinks they're so much better than everyone else.
Yeah, and they love to show off their supposed superiority, right? Like using big words just to sound intelligent, even if it confuses everyone else.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst. One of our sources even calls a politician a pompous fool for giving this long-winded speech about overseas trade.
Wow, that's a pretty strong opinion. It suggests that the writer thinks this politician is completely out of touch, more focused on their own ego than actually helping people.
It's amazing how one word can convey so much, isn't it? Okay, how about cocky? Is that similar to pompous?
Cocky is definitely in the same family as pompous, but it has a slightly different vibe. It's more about that unfounded confidence, that swaggering, know-it-all attitude that can be really annoying.
Like that person who walks into a room like they own the place, even though they haven't really earned it.
Exactly. And, one of our sources mentioned someone coming across as cocky in a job interview, which actually made the interviewer uneasy.
What do you think that is? I mean, isn't confidence a good thing?
It is, but there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness. Cockiness can be a sign of insecurity, like you're trying too hard to impress. And it can also make people question your ability to work well in a team.
So it's all about balance, finding that sweet spot between being confident and being humble. Okay, for a more positive trait, let's talk about streetwise.
Ah, streetwise. Now that's a good one. It suggests someone who's savvy, aware of their surroundings, and able to navigate tricky situations, especially in a city environment.
Like they've got that sixth sense for trouble. They can spot a scam a mile away.
Exactly. One of our sources describes someone as being streetwise because they know how to handle troublemakers on their way home. It's about having that instinct for self-preservation, that ability to read people and situations.
It's like having that inner radar that helps you avoid danger and make smart choices.
Precisely. Okay, let's jump back into the world of idioms for a bit. What about to make a mockery of, We touched on this one earlier, but I think it deserves a little more attention.
Yeah, it's a really powerful phrase, isn't it? It's not just about poking fun at something. It's more about expressing outrage. Like you're saying, this is so wrong, it's almost absurd.
Right, like when something is supposed to be serious or important, but it's been completely undermined or devalued.
One of our sources uses this idiom to describe how a legal loophole completely makes a mockery of the justice system.
Exactly. It highlights how something that's supposed to uphold fairness and justice has been twisted and manipulated for personal gain.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and look for an idiom that captures a feeling of accomplishment, that sense of satisfaction when your efforts pay off.
How about to reap the rewards?
Hmm.
It perfectly captures that feeling of, like, enjoying the benefits of all your hard work.
Oh, I like that. It's like planting a seed, nurturing it, and then finally getting to harvest the fruits of your labor.
Exactly. One of our sources uses this idiom to describe how England would reap the rewards if they won the World Cup. Imagine that collective joy and national pride.
It's a beautiful image, isn't it? Okay, before we move on to our next theme, I want to circle back to something we've touched on a few times already, the importance of context in language.
Oh, absolutely. Context is everything. It's like the key to unlocking the true meaning of words and phrases.
One of our sources gives the example of the phrase off the record. We all know it from gossip, but it can have a totally different meaning in a professional setting, right?
Yeah. Like imagine you're a journalist interviewing a politician and they say, off the record, I can tell you. That's a completely different ballgame than gossiping with your friends.
Right. So we have to be really careful about how we interpret language, paying attention to the subtle cues and the unspoken rules of the situation.
Exactly. It's not just about the words themselves. It's about understanding the intentions behind them. Okay. Are you ready to explore our next theme?
Oh, yeah. Hit me with it. What's next on our language adventure?
Well, our next theme dives into the world of authority, influence, and control, exploring those subtle power dynamics that shape our interactions. We'll be looking at words like undermine, back down, and bluff, those moments when people are vying for power or trying to assert their dominance.
Ooh, this sounds juicy. I can't wait to unpack those power plays.
Me too. It's going to be a fascinating exploration of how language can be used to manipulate, persuade, and ultimately control the narrative.
I'm ready to see how these words play out in real-life situations.
Well, let's dive right in. One of our sources gives the example of someone undermining their colleague's authority by constantly criticizing their work.
Ooh, that's a classic power move, isn't it? Trying to make someone look bad so you can climb the ladder.
Exactly. It's a deliberate attempt to chip away at their confidence and credibility to make them question their own abilities.
So it's not just about giving feedback. It's about using language as a weapon to gain the upper hand. What about to back down? That phrase always makes me think of like defeat.
It does have that connotation, doesn't it? Like you're giving up, surrendering to the other person's will.
One of our sources mentions sponsors backing down on their demands for the layout of Wembley Stadium. What do you make of that example?
It sounds like a classic power struggle.
Yeah.
The sponsors trying to exert their influence, but ultimately having to concede to the stadium management.
So sometimes backing down can be a strategic move, right? Like choosing your battles wisely.
Absolutely. There are times when it's better to retreat and regroup than to risk losing everything in a fight you can't win. Okay, now for a word that I think we all use, but maybe don't fully understand, bluff.
Oh, bluff. That's a good one. It's all about deception, right? Like pretending you have something you don't.
Exactly. It's about projecting confidence, even when you might be feeling totally insecure.
One of our sources describes someone bluffing their way through an exam. I think we've all been there at some point.
Oh, definitely. That fear of being exposed as a fraud, that feeling of, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's universal.
But you mentioned earlier that bluffing can sometimes be a necessary skill. How so?
Well, there are situations where projecting confidence, even if we don't entirely feel it, can be really helpful. Like, think about job interviews or salary negotiations. Sometimes a well-placed bluff can give you that extra edge.
So it's about knowing when to bluff and when to be authentic, right? It's about reading the situation and playing the game strategically.
Precisely. And that's where a deep understanding of language, those subtle nuances of meaning and intention, can be so valuable.
It's like having that secret decoder ring that allows you to see through the smoke and mirrors and understand what's really going on.
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to do here, to equip you with the knowledge and the tools to navigate these complex social interactions with confidence and fluency.
I'm feeling so much more streetwise already.
That's great to hear. But before we get too carried away with our newfound linguistic superpowers, Let's take a moment to recap what we've learned so far. We've explored words and phrases for describing those tricky in-between feelings, for dissecting different personality types, and for understanding those subtle power dynamics that shape our interactions.
And we've delved into the fascinating world of idioms and slang, discovering how they can add color and depth to our language.
It's been a truly enriching journey so far, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface, though. There's still so much more to explore. We've got a whole world of language out there just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. Language is a living, breathing thing, constantly evolving and adapting to the world around us. And that's what makes it so fascinating to study.
I'm excited to see where this linguistic adventure takes us next. Welcome back to our deep dive. We've been having so much fun, haven't we?
I know, right? It's amazing how much there is to say about these words we use all the time.
Before the break, we were talking about those words tied to power dynamics, like undermine. We talked about backing down, too. So what about bluff? Where does that one fit in?
Well, with bluff, it's interesting because it all comes down to, this kind of performance. You're trying to project this image of confidence, even if deep down you might be freaking out.
Right. It's like fake it till you make it.
Yeah, kinda. Think about that example from our research. Someone bluffing their way through an exam.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there, haven't we? Sweating bullets, trying to act like we know the answers when we really have no clue.
Exactly. It's that classic fear of, what if they find out I'm a fraud?
Imposter syndrome, big time. But you said earlier that bluffing can actually be a useful skill sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. There are times when you kind of have to project that confidence, even if you don't fully feel it. Like imagine you're in a job interview or you're trying to negotiate a better salary.
Yeah, I guess in those situations, a little bluff could give you an edge.
Right. But it's a delicate balance because you don't want to come across as arrogant or dishonest.
So it's all about reading the room, knowing when to push and when to hold back.
Exactly. And that's why this whole deep dive is so important. It's about understanding those subtle cues, those layers of meaning that can really make or break a situation.
It's like having a secret weapon, You can decode those hidden messages and use language to your advantage.
Exactly. And as we've talked about, it's all about context. The same word can have totally different meanings depending on the situation, who you're talking to, even their tone of voice or body language.
It's a reminder that language is never static, right? It's always changing, evolving, new words pop up, old words take on new meanings. It's kind of wild when you think about it.
It really is. And that's what keeps it so interesting. There's always something new to learn, some new way to express ourselves.
I feel like I've learned so much already from this deep dive. I mean, just thinking about all the words we've talked about, from describing feelings and personalities to navigating those power dynamics. It's a lot.
It is. But hopefully it's also been really fun and engaging.
Oh, definitely. So before we wrap up, any last bits of wisdom you want to share with our listeners who are, really keen to level up their English?
Well, I'd say the most important thing is to stay curious. Pay attention to how people use language around you. Don't be afraid to ask questions if you hear a word you don't know. And most importantly, have fun with it.
I love that. It's all about playing with language, experimenting, and seeing what happens. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into advanced everyday English. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Now, before you go, I have a little challenge for you. Pick one word or phrase we talked about today and try to use it in a conversation this week. You might be surprised at how it changes things, how it helps you connect with people on a deeper level. And who knows, maybe you'll even impress someone with your newfound vocabulary skills. Until next time, happy word nerding.
Ever get that feeling you might be using a word wrong, but you're too afraid to ask?
Oh, yeah.
Well, fear no more. Because today we're diving deep into 15 words that even fluent English speakers mess up. We've got a YouTube script here, all about leveling up your vocabulary. And you might be surprised by some of these common mistakes.
It is fascinating, though, how some of these errors stem from subtle distinctions that are easy to miss in casual conversation.
Okay, let's unpack this. We'll start with some beginner traps. Words that seem straightforward, but can be surprisingly tricky. I'll be honest, the word literally is one I hear misused all the time.
Yep.
Just the other day, someone told me they were literally dying from how much they had to do that week.
Yes. Literally seems to be a word that's been taken hostage by hyperbole.
So remind us, what should literally mean? Why is it important to use it correctly?
Literally means something actually happened, exactly as stated.
Yeah.
It emphasizes the reality of a situation, not an exaggeration.
Right.
While your friend might have felt overwhelmed, they weren't literally dying.
Right.
You see, using literally correctly makes sure your words carry their intended weight. It's about precision and clarity, especially in an age where misinformation can spread so easily.
That's a really good point. The impact on communication is huge. Okay, another beginner word that trips people up is unique. I once saw a store advertising a sale on very unique items. Something about that just felt off.
That's because unique means one of a kind.
Right.
Inherently special. It stands alone.
Right.
So adding modifiers like very or quite is redundant and actually weakens the impact of the word.
So instead of saying something is very unique, how can we highlight that specialness in everyday conversation?
Let the word unique speak for itself.
Okay.
You could say that painting is truly unique or her style is unique. You're emphasizing the inherent specialness without needing to qualify it further.
That's so interesting. I can see how that subtle shift makes a big difference. Even these beginner words have hidden depths. You really have to think about their true meaning.
Absolutely, and that's what makes language so fascinating. Now, prepare to have some assumptions challenged because some words have meanings completely different from what most people assume.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example of one of these words.
Let's start with irony.
Okay.
Many people confuse irony with simple coincidence or bad luck. For example, someone might say, "It's so ironic that I won the lottery and then got hit by a car."
So winning the lottery and then getting hit by a car, that's just bad luck, not irony.
Yeah.
What makes a situation truly ironic?
True irony involves a situation where the outcome is the opposite of what was expected, often with a humorous or sarcastic undertone. A classic example would be a fire station burning down. It's not just about unfortunate timing, it's about a surprising reversal of expectations.
Wow, that makes so much sense. It's not just about something bad happening. It's about the unexpected nature of the situation.
You see, understanding irony helps us analyze situations more deeply. It's not just about bad luck. It's about recognizing the unexpected and sometimes absurd nature of life.
Speaking of unexpected twists,
Yeah.
let's talk about a word. Often misused in situations with high stakes. Alibis. I feel like I hear people using alibi as a synonym for any kind of excuse.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have a good alibi.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a common mistake. People might say, "I didn't finish the project, but I have a good alibi."
Wait, so if it's not just any excuse, what makes a real alibi? I'm genuinely confused.
An alibi has a very specific legal meaning.
Okay.
It refers to proof that someone was somewhere else at the time a crime was committed, demonstrating their innocence. It's not just any excuse. It's evidence that clears someone of suspicion.
So using alibi to explain why you didn't finish a project wouldn't really make sense.
Exactly. Using alibi in casual conversation when you simply mean excuse can actually undermine your credibility. It shows a lack of precision in your language.
Okay, this is making me rethink how I use these words. What other intermediate words are lurking out there, ready to trip us up?
How about a word that's often confused with its near opposite? Disinterested. Many people use disinterested to mean uninterested or bored. For instance, someone might say, "I was completely disinterested in that meeting."
Disinterested. If it doesn't mean bored or uninterested, then what does it actually mean?
Disinterested actually describes someone who is impartial or unbiased, free from personal stake or interest in a situation. A good example would be a judge who must remain disinterested in the outcome of a case.
Okay.
They can't be swayed by personal opinions or biases.
So if I wanted to say that I found the meeting boring, disinterested wouldn't be the right word to use.
Precisely. In that case, uninterested or bored would be more accurate.
Right.
Disinterested implies neutrality and objectivity. It's about being impartial, not uncaring.
I never realized how a single word could completely change the tone and meaning of a sentence. It's all about understanding those subtle but powerful nuances.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here to explore. Are you ready to be bemused by the next word?
Bemused. Okay, you've definitely got my attention. What's so tricky about this one?
People often think bemused means amused or entertained.
Okay.
You might hear someone say, "I was bemused by his silly jokes."
So if bemused doesn't mean amused, then what's the real meaning?
Bemused actually means puzzled, bewildered, or even slightly confused. Think of it as a state of mild perplexity, for example. You might be bemused by a riddle you can't solve,
Well,
or a strange event you don't fully understand.
so it's not about laughing at a joke. It's about that feeling of, Wait, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense.
Imagine someone watching a magic trick.
Right.
Their brow furrowed, a slight smile playing on their lips.
Yeah.
That's bemusement. It's not amusement,
Yeah.
but a fascinated perplexity.
Okay, now I'm really starting to understand the difference.
Uh-huh.
Bemused is a much richer word than I realized.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that space between amusement and confusion.
Exactly. And these subtle distinctions can make a big difference in how your message is received. Are you ready for our final intermediate word?
Bring it on. I'm ready to tackle anything.
All right. Let's explore a word that's often misused to describe something grand or impressive. Enormity. People often use enormity to emphasize the sheer size or scope of something.
Uh-huh.
You might hear someone say, I was overwhelmed by the enormity of the project.
That's how I usually use it.
Mhm.
But I have a feeling it doesn't quite mean what I think it means.
Yeah.
What's the real meaning?
While enormity can relate to size, its primary meaning leans towards something more serious and weighty.
Okay.
It often refers to extreme wickedness, outrageousness, or the sheer gravity of a situation,
Right.
particularly in a moral or ethical context.
So it's less about physical size and more about the weight of the implications.
Precisely.
Mm.
For instance, if you were discussing a horrific crime, you might speak of the enormity of the act to emphasize its moral depravity and the severity of its consequences.
Wow, that puts the word in a whole new light. It's not just about something being big, it's about something being profoundly impactful, often in a negative sense.
Exactly. It's a word that carries a lot of weight, both literally and figuratively.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already. And I'm starting to feel the enormity and the true sense of the word, of all these linguistic nuances. What's next on our journey?
Next, we'll be venturing into the realm of advanced words, where the nuances become even more intricate. Are you ready to level up your vocabulary even further?
Absolutely. I'm eager to see what other linguistic gems await us in this deep dive
Yeah.
into words.
Right.
It'd be great.
Awesome. Fasten your seatbelts, because these advanced words can be real brain twisters. They're the ones that often pop up in intellectual discussions or professional settings, and misusing them can unfortunately make you sound less credible.
Okay, I'm ready to face the advanced word challenge head on. Let's start with one that I've definitely struggled with in the past.
Decimate.
Decimate is fascinating because its common usage has drifted quite far from its original meaning. People often use it as a synonym for completely destroy, like saying the hurricane decimated the coastal towns. Yeah, I've definitely heard it used that way. But if it doesn't mean to completely destroy, then what does it actually mean?
Decimate has a very specific historical root. It comes from the ancient Roman practice of punishing mutinous troops by killing 1 out of every 10 soldiers. So the original meaning of decimate is to reduce by 1/10, not to obliterate completely.
Wow, I had no idea. That's a pretty grim origin story for a word. So using decimate to describe the total destruction of a town wouldn't be quite right.
Exactly. It's a case of hyperbole overtaking precision. While the impact of a hurricane can be devastating, it's unlikely to literally reduce a town's population by exactly 1/10.
This is why I love these deep dives. You uncover these hidden layers of meaning that we often miss in everyday conversation. It's like learning a secret code.
This word's bloody history reminds us that language carries the weight of the past. Even today, decimate suggests a severe calculated reduction, not total destruction.
Okay, what other advanced words are waiting to be decoded?
Let's tackle one that often gets misused in academic circles: peruse.
Peruse. I'll admit I've been guilty of using this one incorrectly myself. I always thought it meant to quickly skim through something.
That's a very common misconception. In reality, peruse means to read thoroughly and carefully. It implies a close and attentive examination of a text, not a hasty glance.
So if I said I perused the report before the meeting, it would mean I'd given it a very close read, not just skim the headings.
Precisely. Using peruse correctly conveys a sense of diligence and attention to detail. It suggests you've really absorbed the information.
This is another one of those aha moments. I'm realizing that using these advanced words correctly can signal a certain level of intellectual rigor. It shows you're not just skimming the surface.
Exactly. It's about choosing words that accurately reflect the depth of your engagement with the topic.
All right, bring on the next advanced word challenge. I'm feeling more and more confident with each one we tackle.
Let's see if you can crack the code on this one. Nonplussed.
Nonplussed. This one seems tricky. I've heard it used to describe someone who's calm and collected under pressure. Like, even though the presentation went wrong, she remained nonplussed.
That's a clever guess. But it's actually the opposite. Nonplussed describes a state of being surprised and confused, often to the point of speechlessness. It's that feeling of being caught off guard and unsure how to react.
Wow. So it's almost like being speechless with shock.
Exactly. Nonplussed implies a momentary loss of composure, a sense of being bewildered. It's that deer in the headlights feeling.
That makes so much more sense. I can see how misusing this word could lead to some awkward situations.
Indeed, it highlights the importance of understanding the nuances of these advanced words. They can have a big impact on how our message is perceived.
Okay, what other advanced word adventures await us? I'm ready to expand my vocabulary horizons.
Let's explore a word that often gets used in a way that diminishes its true impact. Plethora.
Plethora.
I usually think of this word as meaning a lot of something in a positive way, like there was a plethora of fun activities to choose from at the festival. That's a common interpretation. But plethora carries a slightly different nuance. While it does mean an abundance of something, it often implies an excessive or overwhelming amount.
Okay.
It can sometimes even suggest a sense of burden or inconvenience.
Interesting. So it's not just about having a lot of something. It's about having maybe too much of it, like it's overflowing.
Precisely. Imagine a situation where you're bombarded with information or faced with an overwhelming number of choices. That sense of being inundated can be captured by the word plethora.
So if I were to say, I have a plethora of emails to respond to, it would imply that I'm feeling a bit swamped by them, not necessarily excited about having a full inbox.
Exactly. It's about that tipping point where abundance starts to feel like excess. It's about that too much of a good thing feeling.
I'm starting to see how using plethora correctly can add a layer of sophistication to my descriptions. It's a much more nuanced way of expressing abundance than just saying a lot.
It's about choosing words that convey not just the quantity, but also the impact of that quantity.
This is making me realize how much I've taken these words for granted, what other advanced words are hiding in plain sight, waiting to be understood.
Let's delve into one that's often misused in discussions about facts and information.
Factoid.
Factoid. This one seems pretty straightforward. I always thought it just meant a small or trivial fact.
That's how it's commonly used, but its original meaning is a bit more nuanced, even controversial. The term factoid was actually coined to describe something that appears to be a fact, but is actually false or unsubstantiated.
Right, really? That's a completely different meaning.
That's the risk with using factoid in its original sense. It implies a degree of skepticism or even doubt about the validity of the information being presented. It can be a way of highlighting that something may sound like a fact, but it hasn't actually been proven true.
This is a perfect example of how language can evolve and shift in meaning over time. It's important to be aware of both the common usage and the original intent behind a word. You're absolutely right. Language is a living, breathing thing that constantly adapts and changes. Our goal is to be aware of those changes and use words in a way that is both accurate and effective.
So how can we use factoid in a way that doesn't accidentally spread misinformation?
If you're unsure of the accuracy of a piece of information, it's best to avoid using factoid altogether. You could say something like, here's an interesting tidbit, or this might be a bit of trivia, but this avoids any implication that the information might be false.
That's really helpful advice. Okay, bring on the next advanced word. I'm ready to conquer some more linguistic complexities.
Let's tackle a word that often causes confusion in discussions and debates. Moot.
Moot? I've always thought of this word as meaning irrelevant or pointless. Like that argument is moot because the decision has already been made.
That's a common understanding, but it's not entirely accurate. While moot can relate to something that's no longer relevant, its original meaning is a bit more nuanced. It originally referred to a matter that is open for debate or discussion.
So if a topic is moot, it's not necessarily pointless. It just means there's room for further discussion or consideration.
Precisely. Imagine a legal case where the circumstances change, making the original point of contention no longer relevant to the outcome. The issue might be considered moot, not because it was unimportant, but because it's no longer central to the case.
That's a really helpful clarification. So it's less about the topic being irrelevant and more about its significance having shifted or diminished.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging that the context has changed, and the original point of debate may no longer be the primary focus.
I'm definitely feeling more enlightened than moot after tackling that one. What other advanced word adventures await us?
Let's wrap up our exploration of advanced words with a pair that often trips people up: infer and imply.
Infer and imply. The classic conundrum. I know these words are related to drawing conclusions, but I often mix them up.
It's a common confusion. The key difference lies in who is doing the action. The speaker or writer implies something, meaning they suggest or hint at something without stating it directly. The listener or reader infers something, meaning they draw a conclusion based on what is implied.
So if I were to say, it's getting late, I might be implying that it's time to go, even though I haven't explicitly said so.
Exactly. And if you, as the listener, understood my implication, you would have correctly inferred my meaning.
I see. So it's a two-way street. The speaker sends out a subtle signal, and the listener picks up on that signal and draws a conclusion.
Precisely. It's like a subtle dance of communication where meaning is conveyed through suggestion and interpretation.
This distinction is so subtle, but it's crucial for clear communication. Misusing these words can lead to all sorts of misunderstandings.
Absolutely. Mastering the difference between infer and imply is essential for navigating conversations and interpreting written texts accurately. It's about understanding both sides of the communication equation.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. It's amazing how much depth and complexity there is to these seemingly simple words.
And we've only just scratched the surface. But I hope you're starting to see how understanding the nuances of language can empower you to communicate with greater clarity and precision.
I'm definitely feeling a lot more confident about using these words correctly. It's like a whole new world of linguistic possibilities has opened up.
And that's the beauty of language learning. It's an ongoing journey of discovery and refinement. Are you ready for a quick challenge to test your newfound knowledge?
Absolutely. Bring it on. All right. Hit me with that word challenge. I'm ready to put my knowledge to the test.
Okay. Let's see if you can recall the true meaning of nonplussed. Without looking back at our discussion, take a moment to think about it.
Okay. No peeking. I think I've got it. Nonplussed means to be surprised and confused, almost to the point of speechlessness. It's like that feeling of being completely thrown off guard and not knowing how to react.
That's absolutely correct. You've successfully decoded nonplussed. It seems our deep dive has truly expanded your vocabulary horizons.
I'm feeling pretty proud of myself right now. This whole experience has been eye-opening. I've realized that using words correctly isn't just about sounding smart. It's about communicating effectively and ensuring that my message is understood.
It's about wielding the power of language with precision and care. Choosing words that accurately reflect not only what we want to say, but also the subtle nuances of meaning we wish to convey.
You know, it's funny because I used to think that vocabulary was just about memorizing definitions. But this deep dive has shown me that it's so much more than that. It's about understanding the history, the etymology, the subtle shades of meaning that make each word unique.
It's about recognizing that words are not static, but dynamic. They evolve over time, their meanings shifting and adapting to reflect the changing world around us.
And that's what makes language so fascinating. It's a living, breathing entity that connects us to the past, informs our present, and shapes our future.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I encourage you to continue exploring the fascinating world of language. Pay attention to the words you use, the words you encounter, and the way they impact your understanding of the world.
I know I will. This has been such a rewarding journey. I'm walking away with a newfound appreciation for the power of words and the importance of using them correctly.
Remember, language is a gift, a tool that allows us to connect, create, and inspire. Let's use it wisely.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
Happy wordsmithing. Okay, so let's be real for a sec. Small talk, right? It can be like the most awkward thing ever. Like when you're stuck in a situation and you know you should be chatting, but your mind just goes blank. Anyone else? Feel me on that. But get this. What if I told you that this deep dive could actually turn that dread into pure confidence? And we're going to do it using a source you'd never expect. A video script, get this, for people learning English.
I know, right? Sounds a little out there. But seriously, this script is full of stuff that goes way deeper than just language. It's like a secret masterclass in how humans connect, hidden inside an English lesson.
Okay, I got to admit, when you first mentioned this source, I was kind of like, how can something for total beginners help someone who's already fluent?
That's fair, totally. But the cool thing here is, by breaking small talk down into these simple steps, it actually shows you the psychology behind how we connect. Like, it's a cheat sheet for building rapport, even if you never needed help with English in the first place.
So it's more about understanding the, deeper game, not just memorizing lines.
Exactly. For example, the script makes a big deal about greetings and weather talk, stuff we might think is just filler.
Yeah, I always thought that stuff was kind of pointless.
Right. But they actually serve a super important purpose. Like, humans are literally wired to bond over shared experiences.
Okay.
Even something as simple as complaining about the heat or, whatever the weather's doing.
Okay, yeah, I guess I can see that.
It creates that instant common ground, that we're in this together feeling, which is huge for starting any kind of connection.
Wow, that's actually so true. I never thought about it that way.
And the script goes even further. Instead of those boring old greetings like, hi, how are you? It gives you phrases that fit the specific situation so you get a better response.
Oh, I like where this is going. Give me an example.
So say you're at a party. Instead of that robotic, hi, how are you? Try something like, what brings you here?
Way more interesting, right?
Way more. It's like you're actually interested, not just saying words. Exactly. It shows you're paying attention and they actually get to share something about themselves. It's what they call a strong bid in, like conversation analysis stuff. Each thing we say is a bid to connect.
Ooh, I'm digging this bidding concept. So we're all just out here trying to make the strongest bid to connect.
Totally. And this script is giving us all the winning moves. Another one they have is instead of just saying nice weather, you could say something like, this weather's crazy, right?
It's like inviting the other person in on the joke. I like it.
Yeah.
So it's making small talk feel, I don't know, less robotic. But what really stood out to me was the role-playing part.
Ah, yes. That's where the magic really happens. The people who made this script, they get it. Knowing the right words isn't enough. You got to actually practice using them. And role-playing is the best way to do that.
But what if you don't have someone to practice with? Isn't that kind of, I don't know, weird to do alone?
For sure. But you can totally do it in your head. It's called mental rehearsal. Basically, you just picture yourself in different situations.
Hold on. So you're saying by just imagining myself rocking these small talk moments, I'm actually getting better at it in real life.
You got it. Might sound a little strange, but neuroscientists have found that when you rehearse something mentally, your brain fires up the same way it does when you're actually doing the thing.
No way. That's so cool. It's like training your brain for social situations, like a cheat code for confidence. I'm already feeling less terrified about networking events or, just parties in general.
It's crazy, right? How powerful our brains are. Like, this script really shows you how to use that power to, level up your social skills.
I like that, level up. So we've talked about greetings, weather talk, even practicing in your head. What else does this script have up its sleeve?
Okay, so one thing that really impressed me was the questions. They go way beyond those typical boring questions like, where are you from? Or what do you do? The usual suspects.
Yeah, those can be so snooze fest sometimes.
Right. Instead, they give you all these questions that are actually interesting, designed to, spark real conversations.
Okay, I'm all about those real conversations. Tell me more. Give me the good stuff.
So instead of asking, what do you do? Which can feel kind of like a job interview, they suggest asking, what do you like to do for fun?
I mean, that's a classic for a reason, right? It gets people talking about what they're actually passionate about.
Exactly. It's like you're inviting them to show you their real selves, not just their LinkedIn profile. And if you really want to go deeper, you could try something like, what's the most interesting thing you've done lately?
Ooh, I like that one. It's like a sneak peek into their adventures. You might even discover you have some cool stuff in common.
Totally. Plus, it shows you're actually curious about them, not just trying to fill the silence. And they even have specific questions for different situations. Like, if you're at a dinner party, you could ask, have you tried any good restaurants lately?
Perfect. Everyone loves talking about food. Instant conversation starter, right there.
It's true. It's something we can all relate to, like enjoying a good meal. Okay, so we've covered greetings, weather talk, asking interesting questions, even mental rehearsal. But what about when you're ready to, make your escape? Does the script help with that too?
Yeah, like how do you end a conversation without being rude?
Don't worry, they got you covered. They have a bunch of different closing phrases depending on the situation. From a simple, it was nice talking to you, to something more like, hey, we should grab coffee sometime.
Oh, I love that they include those follow-up suggestions.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really do click with someone, and it's good to have a way to, keep things going.
Exactly. It shows you're confident and interested, which is always a good look. And even if they can't meet up, it still leaves a good impression. They'll remember you as someone who actually wanted to connect.
Yeah, it's like planting a seed, right? You never know where those initial conversations might lead. What about those times when you just need a quick, casual exit, though, like you're running late or something?
No problem. They have those too. They suggest things like, catch you later or have a great day. Those are perfect for keeping it light and friendly without feeling like you have to, hang around forever.
Okay, so whether you're aiming for a lifelong friendship or just a quick chat, it sounds like this script has given us a whole toolbox for navigating the social world.
Yeah. It's like they took all the guesswork out of small talk and gave us a clear path to follow. It's pretty amazing.
And what's so cool is that this script, even though it's for people learning English, it actually shows us some really deep things about human connections, like a reminder that we all want to feel understood, even in those little everyday conversations.
So true. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so valuable. We're not just learning phrases, we're learning about what makes us human and how even a short conversation can make a difference, like create a ripple effect.
It's like we're seeing the world through a whole new lens now, right?
Yeah.
And that brings us to the best part, putting it all into practice. We've talked about a lot today, the different phases of small talk, how to make a bid for connection, even practicing in your head. But now it's your turn, dear listener. Take these ideas and make them your own.
Yes. This is where the real transformation happens. We've given you the tools. Now it's up to you to use them. And remember, you don't have to be perfect. The goal isn't to become some kind of small talk robot.
Exactly. Be yourself, be genuine, and use these techniques to connect with people in a real way. So let's recap the top 3 things we've learned from this unexpected deep dive into, well, mastering small talk. First, small talk isn't just random. There's a structure you can follow to make those conversations flow.
Second, the words you use actually matter. This script has given us tons of phrases that are interesting, thoughtful, and perfect for different situations.
And third, practice, practice, practice. Whether you're practicing in your head or even role-playing with a friend, the more you do it, the more confident and natural you'll become.
It really is like freeing, right?
Yeah.
Knowing you have these tools, it takes away that fear of like messing up or saying the wrong thing.
For sure. It's like having this, I don't know, secret weapon for social situations. And honestly, the biggest thing I'm taking away from this is small talk doesn't have to be something you dread. It can actually be like fun, a way to connect with people,
100%. What about you? What's sticking with you from all this? What did you find most helpful from looking at this script?
It's funny. I think what resonated most was realizing that everyone, even people who seem super outgoing, they've probably felt that awkwardness too. This script shows that small talk is a skill, like something you can learn and get better at, just like anything else.
Right. It's not like some people are born knowing how to do it and others aren't.
Exactly. It takes so much pressure off. You can just approach those conversations with curiosity, like a little game. Just see what happens.
I love that. A little game. It really can be like an adventure,
Yeah.
discovering something new about someone, even if it's just a tiny thing.
And it reminds you that even those small moments, a quick chat, a smile, they can all make a difference. It's like we're all connected in this big web, and every conversation adds to that,
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into, well, the surprisingly interesting world of small talk, I want to leave you with this. Think about the next time you are in a situation where you know there's going to be some small talk. Maybe it's a party or a work event, even just grabbing coffee. What are you most excited to try out from all the stuff we talked about?
Such a good question.
Yeah.
And hey, remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Just be yourself, be genuine, and see what happens. You might be surprised how fun and even meaningful those small conversations can be. So go out there and conquer the world of small talk. We believe in you.
Welcome to this deep dive, everyone. Today we're going to be exploring, well, actually, your English learning journey using a script for a video for English language learners. It's going to be like a deep dive within a deep dive, really. So no matter where you're at, beginner, advanced, somewhere in between, there should be something here for you.
Yeah, I think it's so cool how this script uses like real stories from other people learning English,
Yeah.
to like inspire. It's like we're all on this journey together,
Totally. And speaking of journeys, the script starts off by asking this big question, right? What made you want to learn English in the first place? The why behind your adventure, basically. They give this example of a learner, Anna, and her goal was she just wanted to watch TV, without subtitles. And what I thought was so cool about that was it was totally, coming from her, she just wanted to do it, not because someone told her she had to or anything.
Right.
Those are the best reasons,
Right.
when it comes from inside.
Yeah, for sure. Knowing your why can really make a difference, I think, especially when things get tough, When you hit a wall, you just don't feel like studying. It's like having a compass to keep you, heading in the right direction.
I love that, the compass. So I'm curious, what was your why, when you started out? Take a second to think about that. It's worth, revisiting it as you keep going, too. Now, the script also digs into how, where you are can affect your learning. It gets that not everyone can be, surrounded by English speakers all the time, but kind of challenges us to get creative.
Yeah, yeah. This story about Raj really stuck with me. He lives in this village where literally no one speaks English. And so he basically turned his whole house into this like learning tool, sticky notes everywhere, using English for like everyday stuff. It just proves you don't have to be in some English speaking country to learn it well.
It's amazing, right? Talk about resourcefulness. He didn't wait for the perfect situation. He just made it himself. And this actually leads perfectly into what the script talks about next. How to, take all that time we waste and turn it into learning time.
Oh, yeah. Like when you're scrolling on your phone or whatever, and it's not even like fun anymore.
Exactly. But imagine if you could use that time to learn instead. The script mentions Maria, and she would spend like 30 minutes every night on, I think it was TikTok, and she swapped that for English learning videos, and guess what? In just a couple of weeks, her vocabulary like exploded.
Wow.
See? Totally doable. And what's even cooler is you can do this throughout your day, right? Like when you're commuting, waiting in line, even just doing chores. You can listen to podcasts, use apps, just sneak in little bits of English here and there.
Yeah, yeah. Just make it a part of your life, The more you can do that, the more natural it all feels.
Exactly. The script then kind of switches gears and talks about common mistakes that can, slow you down. And this is where I think your expertise is going to be so helpful. One of the first things it mentions is like getting too hung up on grammar, to the point where you're not even really speaking. It's easy to just memorize all the rules, but language is really about talking to people, right?
Absolutely. Grammar's important. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. But sometimes I think it gets too much focus, like it's more important to be able to speak fluently and confidently, even if you mess up a little. It's about finding that balance, I think. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. I totally agree with that. You could know all the grammar in the world, but if you can't have a conversation, what's the point, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like you learn how to play an instrument, but then you never actually play any music.
Exactly. You just practice scales all day long. Okay, so the script's next point, I think this is something we've all dealt with, being scared to make mistakes. I mean, every language learner goes through that, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I think it's so important to, like, change how we think about mistakes. They're not like failures. They're actually like feedback.
Yeah.
Each mistake is a chance to learn and get better.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. It takes the pressure off, And this kind of leads into the third mistake they talk about in the script, which is not practicing regularly. We've all been there, right? Like crazy study sessions and then nothing for weeks.
Yeah, I've totally been there. It's always better to do a little bit every day than a lot all at once.
Yeah.
It's like you wouldn't go to the gym once a month for 8 hours and expect to see results. You got to be consistent.
So true. Short, consistent workouts, that's the key. Like the script mentions this learner who went from like these huge study sessions every now and then to just doing 30 minutes a day every day. And they saw way more progress.
It's amazing, right? How much difference just a little bit each day can make.
Yeah.
Our brains, they actually learn better that way too, through repetition and like slow exposure, not cramming.
So instead of trying to do it all at once, just find little ways to fit English into your day, right?
Exactly.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit and look at what the script says about, learning English if you don't live in an English-speaking country.
Yeah.
Which can feel like a huge obstacle, but the script has some pretty encouraging examples.
Yeah, I was really interested in that part.
It comes back to what we were saying before about creating that immersive environment, even without actually being around English speakers. And technology can really help with this, right?
Totally.
Like apps for language exchange, online forums, even streaming services with subtitles.
There's so much out there.
Right. Like in the script, they talk about Marco from Spain, and he basically made like his own little English world at home, reading news in English, watching English YouTubers, even talking to friends online from other countries.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's like bringing the English-speaking world to you.
You don't even have to get on a plane.
Exactly. Which leads perfectly into the script's like final challenge, focus on output.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just understand English. You got to use it, by speaking or writing.
Yeah, that's where the real learning happens, I think. Getting out there and actually using the language. I know it can be scary at first, but the more you do it, the easier it gets.
The script suggests a few things you can try, like recording yourself speaking and then listening back to see what you can improve.
Well, that's a good one.
Or joining a speaking group, or even just writing like a short paragraph in English every day.
I like that.
Just little things to get you practicing,
The key is to find what works for you and then make it a habit. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Even 5 minutes a day can make a difference in the long run.
And as we start wrapping up this deep dive here, I think one of the most important things to remember is learning English, it's a journey, right? And every little thing you do, it brings you closer to your goals.
That's a great way to put it.
It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress. I mean, we've talked about so much, right? Like from that whole why thing to making your own little English world. But what really sticks out to me is how much the script is all about, like, doing stuff.
Oh, yeah, totally. You can't just sit there and like, hope you'll learn English.
Right. You got to get out there and use it. And remember how we talked about making mistakes? The script wants us to think about those differently, too.
Yeah. They're not like the end of the world.
They're actually how you get better.
Like little stepping stones. Yeah.
I love that. So as we wrap up this whole deep dive into learning English, I have one question for you. And it kind of goes back to that output thing we were talking about. What's one small step you're going to take this week to like actually use your English?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Could be anything, really. Record yourself talking for a minute, write an email in English, even just chat with someone online.
It doesn't have to be this big, huge thing.
Exactly. Just something small but consistent.
Like we were saying before, 5 minutes a day, it all adds up.
We've explored a ton of tips today and heard some pretty inspiring stories. I bet there are a few that like really resonated with you.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So think about those and how you can use them in your own learning. And remember, learning English, it should be fun, not a chore.
Totally. It's an adventure.
Embrace those challenges, you know, celebrate how far you've come and never stop exploring. Happy learning, everyone. All right. So, sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a bit of a vocabulary rut, using the same words day after day.
I know what you mean.
But I was looking at this guide to 20 advanced words, the kind that, can really make you sound smarter in everyday conversations.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be fun to kind of deep dive into some of these words.
I think that's a great idea. It's not just about sounding smart, though, right?
Right.
It's more about expressing yourself with more precision and nuance. And honestly, even understanding how other people are using language to kind of persuade you or inform you.
Right. Yeah. It's like you can be more persuasive and also not be persuaded by other people.
Exactly.
So we're not aiming to turn everyone into Shakespeare here.
No.
But I bet you'd be surprised how many of these words you've already encountered without realizing, how much they can elevate your communication.
Absolutely. And that's actually what's so interesting about this particular set of words. They're not pulled from some obscure academic journal or something like that.
Right.
They're words that appear in everyday conversations, articles, books, you name it.
Yeah.
So knowing them inside and out, I mean, that really makes you a better speaker.
Yeah.
But it also makes you a more critical listener at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's like having a secret decoder ring for the English language.
I like that.
Yeah. So let's unlock some of these words.
Okay.
What's our first one?
Well, we'll start with intriguing. Now, on the surface, it just means very interesting.
Yeah.
But think about the difference between saying, that movie sounds interesting.
Right.
Versus, that movie sounds intriguing.
Ooh, yeah. Intriguing definitely has more weight to it.
Right.
It's like you're saying that movie has hooked your curiosity and you need to know more.
Precisely. It suggests a much deeper level of engagement. You're not just passively interested. You're actively drawn in.
It's almost like intriguing implies there's a mystery to unravel.
Yeah. There's something more to it.
Yeah. Okay, what's next on our list?
Let's go with diligent, meaning showing care and perseverance in your work. Now, you could easily just say someone is hardworking, but diligent, that carries a different connotation, doesn't it?
It does. Hardworking just sounds like putting in the hours. But diligent, like you said, it makes me think of someone who's truly dedicated to their work.
Exactly.
Who really takes pride in what they're doing.
And that distinction can make all the difference, especially in like a professional setting.
Oh, totally.
Imagine you're describing a colleague to your boss, right? Diligent paints a much more impressive picture.
Right. It subtly implies that they go above and beyond just the bare minimum.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm already feeling my vocabulary muscles getting stronger. What's word number 3?
Let's tackle one we all know too well. Tedious.
Yes.
Meaning, of course, boring and repetitive, something that just seems to drag on forever.
Yeah. Tedious is the perfect word for that stack of paperwork on my desk.
Oh, I know.
Or that meeting that could have been an email.
Exactly. But the reason this word is so useful is that it allows you to express that feeling of boredom.
Right.
in a more sophisticated way.
So instead of just groaning that something's boring,
Yeah,
using tedious actually makes you sound more articulate.
precisely.
Right.
And it also allows you to be more specific about, what kind of boredom you're experiencing.
Okay.
Tedious implies a sense of monotony, of having to do something repetitive and unchallenging.
That's a good point. It's like saying, this is boring and it's making me feel drained because it's just so mindless.
Right. And by using that kind of nuanced language, you're really signaling to others that you're thoughtful and attentive to detail, even when you're describing something, negative.
Okay, I can definitely see how that could come in handy. Let's keep going.
Okay.
What's our next word?
This one's a big one, and we hear it used a lot, especially these days. Unprecedented. It means, quite simply, never done or known before.
This is definitely a word that carries a lot of weight, especially in the news.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like every other day there's some unprecedented event happening.
I know, right? But that's why it's so important to understand its true meaning.
Okay.
Unprecedented isn't just about something being new or different. It's about something being truly groundbreaking,
Yeah.
something that breaks the mold.
So it's not just about a change, it's about a truly significant shift
Exactly.
that's never, ever been seen before.
It's about recognizing those moments in history or in science or culture
Yeah.
that just completely change the game.
And by using unprecedented correctly, we can avoid kind of diluting its power and make sure that it's used only when it's truly warranted.
Absolutely. It's about using language with precision and impact.
Okay. That's 4 words down, 16 to go.
Wow, we're making progress.
I know, I'm feeling more confident already.
That's great to hear.
What's up next?
Let's aim for completeness with comprehensive.
Okay.
This word signals that something is complete, thorough,
Uh-huh.
including all the necessary details.
So instead of just, asking for a report, I could ask for a comprehensive report.
Yes.
Meaning I want all the data, all the analysis, no stone unturned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And imagine, like, you're reading a review of some new gadget, right?
Uh-huh.
A comprehensive review that would cover all its features, the pros and cons,
Yeah.
comparisons to other similar products, and so on.
It's like saying, give me the full picture, leave nothing out.
Precisely. Comprehensive just implies a level of depth
Yeah.
and thoroughness that goes, beyond the surface.
I can see this word being useful in all sorts of situations.
Oh, yeah,
Work, research, even just planning a trip.
absolutely.
Okay, what's word number 6?
Let's get a little more nuanced here
Okay.
with subtle.
Okay.
This word describes something that's not obvious,
Uh-huh.
delicate, or understated.
Ooh, subtle is a good one. It's like in noticing those little details that most people might miss.
Yeah.
Like a subtle hint of spice in a dish, or a subtle change in someone's mood.
Exactly. And this word is all about being perceptive, about paying attention to the fine details.
Yeah.
It suggests a level of awareness and understanding
Yeah.
that goes beyond the superficial.
I love that. It's like saying, I see what you did there, but in a much more sophisticated way.
Exactly. Subtle implies a deeper level of observation
Yeah.
and insight.
This is great. We're already starting to unpack some really interesting words here.
I know, this is fun.
What's up next?
This one might hit a little close to home for us. Jargon. It refers to the specialized language used by a particular group or profession.
Oh, yeah. I think we're all guilty of using jargon sometimes. It's so easy to fall into that trap,
I know.
especially when you're talking to people in your own field.
But being aware of jargon and knowing when to avoid it, that is crucial for effective communication.
Yeah.
Think about it. Have you ever been in a conversation where you felt completely lost
Oh, yeah.
because everyone was just using all these technical terms that you just didn't understand?
Absolutely. It's like they're speaking a different language.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel so excluded
Yes.
or even intimidated,
Exactly. So while jargon can be useful, within a specific group,
Yeah.
it's important to remember that clear, simple language.
Uh-huh.
That's usually the best way to communicate with a wider audience.
Right. It's about making sure that everyone is on the same page, regardless of their background or expertise. Okay, what's word number 8 on our list?
Let's talk about ambitious,
Okay.
a word that often gets thrown around. But do we really understand its full meaning? It's more than just wanting to succeed.
Yeah.
It's about having this strong desire to achieve something truly significant.
So it's not just about climbing the corporate ladder. It's about setting goals that are truly challenging and meaningful.
Exactly. Think about it. You could say that someone's ambitious because they want to be a CEO, right?
Right.
But you could also say that a scientific research project is ambitious
Sure.
because it aims to solve some major global problem.
So ambitious can apply to individuals and their goals,
Yeah,
but also to projects, ideas, even entire organizations.
absolutely. It's about setting the bar high and striving for something that pushes the boundaries.
I like that. It's about aiming for excellence, for making a real impact.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep this vocabulary train rolling. What's word number 9?
This one's crucial in our increasingly interconnected world. Empathy.
Okay.
The ability to understand and share the feelings of others.
Empathy is more than just sympathy, right? It's about truly putting yourself in someone else's shoes and seeing the world from their perspective.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that everyone has their own unique experiences and perspectives and being able to connect with them on like an emotional level.
I can see how empathy is essential in so many areas of life, from personal relationships to professional settings to even just navigating society as a whole.
Absolutely. It allows us to build stronger relationships, resolve conflicts more effectively,
Yeah.
and just create a more compassionate and understanding world.
All right, we're almost through our first 10 words.
I know. Can you believe it?
What's the last one we'll tackle in this section?
Let's finish with reluctant.
Okay.
It describes someone who's unwilling or hesitant to do something.
I feel like I use this word all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm reluctant to try that new restaurant because I've heard mixed reviews.
Yeah, exactly. Or he was reluctant to share his ideas because he was afraid of being criticized.
It's about expressing a sense of hesitation or reservation without being outright, negative or dismissive.
Right. And sometimes that hesitation, it's warranted.
Totally.
Reluctant can signal that you need more information or convincing before you're ready to fully commit.
Okay, so we've covered 10 fantastic words already.
I know, it's amazing.
I can already feel my communication skills leveling up.
Me too.
But this is just the beginning, right?
This is just the tip of the iceberg.
We've got 10 more words to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Oh yeah, we're just getting started. Welcome back. I hope you've got your mental dictionaries ready.
Yeah.
Because we're about to unlock 10 more powerful words
Okay.
that can add some serious punch to your vocabulary.
I'm ready to expand my linguistic horizons even further.
Excellent.
What's the first word we're tackling in this round?
Let's start with elaborate, which means to explain something in greater detail.
Okay.
Think of it as going beyond the surface level, really fleshing out your thoughts.
I can see how elaborate would be useful in so many situations. Like if someone gives a presentation with a really interesting idea, you could say, "That sounds fascinating. Can you elaborate on that point?"
Exactly. It's a great way to encourage deeper discussion
Yeah.
and get to the heart of a matter. You're signaling that you're not just passively listening,
Right.
but you're actively seeking a more comprehensive understanding.
It's like saying, "Tell me more. I'm all ears."
I love it.
Okay, what's next on our list of vocabulary power-ups?
Let's embrace a little bit of the unexpected
Okay.
with spontaneous.
Okay.
This word describes something done without planning,
Right.
something impulsive and in the moment.
Ooh, I love a good dose of spontaneity. It's like
Yeah.
throwing caution to the wind and just going with the flow.
And sometimes, those spontaneous decisions, those lead to the most memorable experiences.
For sure.
Think about it. Have you ever just taken a spontaneous road trip
Oh, yeah.
or decided on a whim to try a new restaurant?
Yes. And those are often the stories I end up telling over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? It's like spontaneity injects a little bit of magic into life.
I completely agree. It keeps things interesting. It allows us to break free from our routines.
Okay, I'm feeling energized by that word. What's next on our list?
Let's come back down to earth a little bit
Okay.
with mundane, which describes something ordinary, routine,
Yeah.
or even a bit boring.
I think we all experience those moments of mundanity in our lives.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the everyday stuff that we just have to get through.
But here's the interesting thing about mundane. It's all about perspective. What one person finds mundane, another person might actually find comforting
Oh, that's interesting.
or even enjoyable.
That's a good point. Like, I find folding laundry to be incredibly mundane, but my partner actually finds it really relaxing.
Exactly. So while mundane, might have these kind of negative connotations, it's important to remember that it's subjective.
Yeah.
What matters is how we choose to approach those everyday tasks
Right.
and find meaning in them.
Okay, I like that reframing of mundane. It's a reminder to find the silver lining, even in those, most ordinary moments. What's our next word?
Let's get real with candid,
Okay.
which means open, honest, and straightforward.
Candid. I appreciate people who are candid. Even when it's not always easy to hear,
Right.
It shows a level of authenticity
Yeah.
and respect.
And that candid communication, that is crucial for building trust
Uh-huh.
and strong relationships.
Totally.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Would you rather someone sugarcoat their feedback or just be upfront and honest with you?
Oh, definitely upfront and honest.
Yeah.
It might be uncomfortable in the moment,
Yeah.
but ultimately it's so much more helpful
Yeah,
and productive.
exactly. Candid allows for real conversations to happen.
Yeah.
And we can learn and grow from each other's perspectives.
Okay. I'm ready for our next word. What have you got?
Let's find some relief
Okay.
with alleviate, which means to reduce or relieve pain, difficulty, or stress.
Ooh, alleviate feels like a very soothing word. Like taking a deep breath and feeling the tension just melt away.
I love that. Think about it in different contexts. Like a doctor might prescribe medication to alleviate a patient's pain.
Uh-huh.
A government might implement policies to alleviate poverty.
Right.
Or even on a personal level, you could say, listening to music helps me alleviate stress.
Exactly. Alleviate can be applied to such a wide range of situations.
Oh, yeah.
From physical discomfort to emotional distress to societal problems. It's about taking action to make things better.
Yes. To ease burdens.
Okay, we're over halfway through our second set of words.
I know, this is going by fast.
What's next on our vocabulary adventure?
Let's talk about versatile, which describes something or someone who's adaptable,
Okay.
able to be used or function in many different ways.
Oh, versatile is a great word to have in your arsenal, especially in today's world where adaptability is so highly valued.
Absolutely. Think about, like a chef who can cook any cuisine, or like a tool that can be used for multiple tasks. That's versatility in action.
It's about being resourceful, adaptable, being able to pivot and thrive in different situations.
And in a world that's constantly changing, versatile individuals and organizations, they have a distinct advantage. They can navigate challenges and seize opportunities with, greater ease.
Okay, I'm making a note to add versatile to my resume. What's up next?
Let's acknowledge those moments of unplanned action
Okay.
with impulsive, meaning acting without thinking about the consequences.
Oh, impulsive. That can be both exciting and a little bit dangerous.
That's right.
Sometimes those spur-of-the-moment decisions lead to these amazing adventures, and other times, not so much.
It's true. Impulsivity can be a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It can lead to spontaneity, excitement, but it can also lead to regret if we're not careful.
I think it's about finding that balance between being open to new experiences and making sure we're not acting recklessly,
Exactly. And sometimes a little bit of planning
Uh-huh.
can go a long way in preventing those impulsive decisions
Right.
from backfiring.
Okay, I'm ready for our next word. What have we got?
Let's vent a little
Uh-huh. Okay.
with frustrating,
Okay.
which describes something that causes annoyance or disappointment.
Oh, frustrating. We've all been there.
Oh, yes.
Those moments when things just don't go our way.
Yeah.
Or we encounter obstacles that seem impossible to overcome.
But here's the thing about frustration. It can actually be a powerful motivator.
Oh, interesting.
Think about it. When you're frustrated by a problem, you're more likely to put in the effort to solve it.
That's a good point. It's like frustration can fuel our creativity and our problem-solving skills.
Exactly. So next time you're feeling frustrated, try to channel that energy into finding a solution,
Uh-huh.
into overcoming the challenge.
Okay, we're down to our last two words in this set.
I know, I can't believe it.
What's up next?
Get ready to be captivated
Oh.
by compelling, which describes something that evokes interest, attention, or admiration.
I love the word compelling. It's like a magnet,
Yeah.
It draws you in and makes you want to learn more.
Think about a book that you just couldn't put down,
Oh, yeah.
or like a speech that left you feeling so inspired. Those are examples of compelling content.
It's about creating something that truly resonates with people,
Yeah.
that leaves a lasting impact.
And it's not just limited to words, like a compelling piece of art, a compelling performance,
Yeah.
even a compelling personality. All of those can have that same magnetic effect.
Okay, on to our final word for this segment.
All right, let's do it.
What do we got?
Let's conclude with the power of resilience.
Okay.
With resilient, meaning able to recover quickly from difficulties or setbacks. It's about bouncing back from challenges,
Yeah.
stronger than before.
Resilient is such an important quality to have, especially in today's world, where we're constantly facing uncertainty and change.
Absolutely. Think about it. Resilient people, they don't let setbacks define them.
Right?
They learn from their mistakes. They adapt to new situations.
Yeah.
And they just keep moving forward.
It's about having that inner strength and determination to overcome obstacles and come out on the other side.
Yeah.
Even stronger than before.
Exactly. Resilience is about embracing challenges as opportunities for growth
Yeah.
and using them to fuel, our personal development.
Okay, we've explored another 10 amazing words. I'm feeling so empowered by this expanded vocabulary. But before we move on, I'm curious. Which word from this set really resonated with you?
It's hard to choose just one. So many of them feel so relevant to everyday life. But I think resilient, that one's really sticking with me.
Yeah, I can see why.
It's such a powerful reminder that we can bounce back from challenges,
It is. And it ties in nicely with something we've been highlighting throughout this whole deep dive, right?
Learning and using these words, it isn't just about, sounding smarter.
Right.
It's about equipping yourself to navigate the world more effectively.
It's like we're giving our listeners a toolbox.
Yeah.
Filled with these linguistic power tools.
I like that analogy.
Uh-huh.
And just like any good toolbox, it's important to keep adding new tools, right?
Right.
As you encounter new challenges and situations.
So this deep dive, it's really just the beginning, right?
It is.
It's about sparking curiosity and encouraging our listeners to keep exploring, this vast and fascinating world of language.
A lifelong journey.
So where can our listeners go from here? What are some, practical tips for expanding their vocabularies even further?
Well, there are so many great resources available these days. You could start a word of the day ritual, subscribe to those online dictionaries or like etymology blogs.
Oh, yeah.
Or even just make a conscious effort to pay attention to the language used in your favorite books, podcasts, movies.
I love that idea of making it a daily habit.
Yeah.
It's like a mini workout for your brain,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Flexing those linguistic muscles.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to use those new words in your own conversations, right?
Right.
The more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
That's such an important point. It's not enough to just memorize the definitions.
Right.
We need to actually put these words into practice,
Yeah.
to really make them our own.
Think of it this way. Every new word you learn, it's like adding a new color to your palette. It gives you more options for expressing yourself with nuance and precision.
So before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a bit of a challenge.
Okay.
What's one word you learned today that you're going to commit to using in a conversation this week?
Oh, that's a good one. And I would add to that, how will using that word change the way you communicate? The way you're perceived?
Yeah.
Or even the way you think?
That's a great question to ponder. Remember, the power of language is immense. It shapes our thoughts, influences our actions, and connects us to each other.
It really does.
So go forth, listeners, and wield those words with confidence and intention.
I love it.
That's it for our deep dive into 20 advanced words you can use every day.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, happy wordsmithing.
When you hear certain words, don't they just kind of bring that holiday feeling to life? We're going to dive into some Christmas vocabulary today.
Yeah.
But we're going deeper than just, dictionary definitions.
Right.
We're really trying to see how these words reflect like culture and tradition.
Absolutely. I think that language is such a good window into how people experience the world.
Yeah.
And that's definitely true for holidays like Christmas, for sure.
Okay, so we've got 19 of these most useful Christmas words to unpack.
Okay.
From the source material you sent over. And some are pretty familiar, like festive and carol.
Right.
But I have a feeling that even those have kind of some hidden depths.
Oh, for sure. You'd be surprised at how much history and nuance is packed into those everyday words.
Yeah.
For example, festive isn't limited to just Christmas.
Right.
It speaks to a much broader human need for celebration and ritual.
That's interesting. Yeah. I've always associated carols with religious celebrations mostly, but I can see how they've evolved into something more than that over time.
Oh, absolutely. Carols have their roots in ancient traditions, and they served as a form of storytelling and even social commentary back then.
Wow. And some carols still use that beautiful old word, Yuletide, right?
Yeah.
Seems like we're bringing back some of those older terms.
There's definitely a renewed appreciation for the language of tradition.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me, we've got tinsel, bauble, and ornament on our list.
Oh, yeah.
These words bring up a lot of sensory memories, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Especially tinsel. Who hasn't spent like an hour untangling that stuff?
Yay.
Oh, my goodness. And speaking of decorations, did you know there's actually a difference between bauble and ornament?
That's right. Bauble is more common in British English,
Hmm.
while ornament is the more general term.
Okay.
And the source actually gives us the example. The tree looks beautiful with all the ornaments.
Yeah. The source also mentions gift exchange.
Yeah.
You know, the way we exchange gifts really shapes the whole Christmas experience, doesn't it? Whether it's a big family gathering or just a quiet exchange of small tokens of appreciation.
Yeah. It's fascinating how gift-giving traditions vary across cultures.
Yeah.
And even within families. The word exchange itself implies a kind of reciprocity,
Mm-hmm.
but that can take so many different forms.
Right. There are some real cultural gems on this list,
Yeah.
like mulled wine.
Yeah.
Now, that's a word that instantly warms me up.
Right?
Have you ever tried a Christmas cracker, though?
The Christmas cracker. It's a fun British tradition
Yep.
where you pull apart a paper tube with another person.
Huh.
It makes a little pop, and inside you find a small gift, a paper crown,
Wow.
and often a joke or a riddle.
That sounds so fun.
Yeah.
The source says, we pulled crackers before starting our Christmas dinner.
Yeah,
Maybe we should try that tradition sometime.
I think you'd enjoy it. Speaking of traditions, we can't forget the words that represent, like, the heart of Christmas, nativity and reindeer.
Those really capture the two sides of Christmas, don't they? The religious story and the more whimsical, fantastical elements.
Yeah.
Like Santa Claus and flying reindeer and all that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing how those two words, nativity and reindeer, can evoke such different images and emotions, right?
Yeah.
The nativity scene with its quiet reverence,
Right.
and then reindeer representing the magic and excitement of, like, Christmas Eve.
Right. And speaking of reindeer, I can't help but think of Rudolph.
Oh, of course.
You know, Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer.
Right.
Our source even points it out. Rudolph is the most famous reindeer of all.
Of course, he's become a cultural icon in his own right,
He has.
symbolizing acceptance and the idea that what makes you different can also make you extraordinary.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That ties in nicely with the word holly, don't you think?
Yeah,
It's not just a decoration. It's a symbol of hope and resilience in the middle of winter.
that's a great observation. Holly has been associated with Christmas for centuries,
Really?
and the source provides a lovely example of its use. We decorated the table with holly and candles. It really adds a festive touch, doesn't it?
It does. It's interesting how certain plants become so intertwined with specific times of year.
Right.
Like you mentioned earlier, language really does reflect our relationship with the natural world.
Absolutely. We also have sleigh on our list,
Oh, yeah.
which evokes a very specific image of winter travel,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you consider the source's mention of a horse-drawn sleigh.
It's a classic image, isn't it?
Yeah.
The horse-drawn sleigh, the snow falling softly.
Yeah.
It's like a scene from a Christmas card.
Yeah.
That makes me think of the word frosty,
Yeah.
which is so evocative of that crisp winter air.
Frosty really captures that sensory experience of Christmas.
Yeah.
The source paints a perfect picture with its example. The frosty morning was perfect for building a snowman.
And who doesn't love a good snowman? Though I have to admit, my favorite winter activity might involve an advent calendar.
Oh, yeah.
Those little doors hiding daily treats.
Yeah.
It's all about the anticipation.
Right.
What are some unique advent calendar traditions you've come across?
When I was younger, my family had a handmade advent calendar with tiny pockets,
Oh, wow.
and each day held a little note or a small treat. It wasn't about the grandeur of the gifts, but the small moments of joy leading up to Christmas.
That's so heartwarming.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that the essence of the holidays isn't always about material things,
Right.
It's about those shared experiences and traditions.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to something we touched on earlier, how language shapes our understanding of Christmas.
We've only just scratched the surface, haven't we?
Right.
But exploring these 19 words has shown us how vocabulary can be a powerful tool for understanding tradition history
Yeah.
and even the different ways people experience the holidays.
It's like each word is a little window into the vast and varied world of Christmas traditions.
Yeah.
And I think it's time to open one more window. Remember how we talked about adding like one word to this list?
Yeah.
A word that really captures the essence of Christmas for you?
Yeah, that's the real heart of this whole deep dive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just about learning new words. It's about reflecting on what those words mean to us personally.
Exactly. And thinking about that one word, that personal touchstone for the holidays,
Right.
it can really spark some interesting conversations.
Yeah.
What word comes to mind for you?
For me, it might be generosity.
Oh,
It's about that spirit of giving.
Yeah.
Not just material gifts, but also our time, kindness, and compassion.
that's a beautiful choice. And it really does remind me of something we've kind of seen throughout this whole exploration of Christmas vocabulary.
Yeah.
How these words connect us to something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. Whether it's the sense of community evoked by Carol or the historical depth of Yuletide,
Right.
these words carry echoes of shared experiences and traditions.
And even a simple word like frosty can transport us back to childhood memories
Right.
of snowy days and winter wonder.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I encourage you to hold on to that word you chose, that word that encapsulates the spirit of Christmas for you.
Yeah.
Let it guide you through this season and maybe even share it with someone else.
Yeah, I like that. Because sometimes the most meaningful conversations
Right.
start with a single word from both of us.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Hey, everyone. Super stoked to have you all here as we kind of like really jump into this topic. I know you're all obsessed with, mastering English.
That's a pretty big deal, right?
Totally. So we're going to be dissecting this awesome guide called, A Comprehensive 1-Hour Guide. And not just like summarizing it,
Oh, wait.
but pulling out the gems, those like super motivating nuggets to keep you going on your English journey.
And this guide, I gotta say, it's not your typical, learn English in 5 minutes kind of thing.
Ugh, those drive me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes deeper, looks at the psychology, like why we struggle, how to rewire our thinking,
Totally. And we'll uncover some surprising things too.
You bet.
Like, did you know even native speakers mess up sometimes?
Yeah.
And like watching Friends can be educational. Who knew?
Right. It's about finding what works for you. And this guide's like this toolbox of different approaches. So
I'm excited to dig in. But first, like the big WHY, right? Want to put in the effort.
the guide starts with this idea of open doors to opportunities. And they use this travel example. Imagine you're like in a bustling market in, I don't know, Morocco or something.
Oh, I love Morocco.
Right. And you can haggle prices, ask for directions, actually connect with people, not just gestures, you know?
That's the dream. But it's bigger than just travel, right?
Way bigger. Think global communication, business, ideas. English is like the key to this whole network.
So it's becoming a citizen of the world, kind of. Love that. The guide also talks about building confidence. We know learning anything new does that. But why is it special with language?
Well, language is how we express ourselves, connect. It's part of our identity, right? So the more you practice English, the more confident you become, not just in the language, but in yourself, you know, navigating the world.
It's like that moment when you realize you understand a whole conversation without translating in your head. Bam.
Total mind-blown moment. And speaking of unlocking things, there's this point about cultural connection that really hit me.
We do. It's huge. Imagine enjoying movies, books, music, all that without the language barrier. Like,
You get it, right? It's like gaining access to this whole new world of art and entertainment, that feeling when you get a joke in your favorite show without subtitles. Magic.
pure magic. But let's be real. It's not all sunshine and roses. There are bumps in the road.
Definitely.
And the guide dives into those common obstacles. And one that probably hits everyone is, lack of time.
Oh, tell me about it.
Right. Between work, life, just existing, finding time to practice feels impossible.
And that's where the guide gets really interesting. It debunks this myth that you need hours each day, like some kind of language hermit.
No thanks.
Yeah, they emphasize consistency over intensity. Even 15, 20 minutes consistently can make a huge difference. It's about using those little pockets of time we all have.
That is so reassuring. Because I think a lot of people get scared off thinking they got to like quit their job to learn English.
Exactly.
The other big one, and this one I'll admit gets to me, is fear of mistakes.
Oh, yeah. That can be paralyzing.
It is. Like I freeze up thinking about making a mistake. So what does the guide say about that?
Well, it's all about a mindset shift. Mistakes aren't failures. They're like stepping stones, proof you're learning, you know?
I love that. Takes the pressure off because honestly, who's perfect?
Nobody. The guide uses this analogy of learning to ride a bike. You're going to wobble, maybe fall, but each time you get back on, you're getting better.
Yeah.
Language is similar. Every mistake means you're pushing your boundaries. That's where the magic happens.
Okay, feeling pumped already. We've got the why, busted some myths. Now for the fun part, those game-changing techniques to make learning not just bearable, but enjoyable. What's the guide got for us?
Buckle up because it's about to get interesting. So the guide jumps into these practical tips to stay motivated. And, it all starts with something that seems obvious, but we often miss it. Setting clear goals.
Ugh, goals. Isn't that like generic self-help stuff? I feel like I hear that everywhere.
Yeah.
I hear ya, but the guide gets specific. It's not just learn English. It's about how to set goals for language learning using frameworks that work.
Frameworks. Okay, now I'm curious. Give me the deets.
So they talk about short-term and long-term goals, which makes sense, but it goes deeper, like using the SMART goal method.
SMART goals, I've heard of those, but how's that language specific?
Instead of become fluent, which is super vague, a SMART goal could be learn 10 business English words every day for a month and use them in practice conversations twice a week.
Whoa, that's way more concrete. I can actually picture that. It's like actionable.
Exactly. And that's what keeps us motivated, seeing those small wins,
Totally.
Yeah.
Makes sense. The guide also talks about making learning fun, which we touched on earlier with that whole cultural connection thing.
Right. Because if it feels like a chore, you're going to quit.
100%. So how do we tap into that enjoyment factor, make it feel less like study and more like, I don't know, playtime?
Well, they suggest using your passions, Instead of forcing yourself to read boring textbooks, immerse yourself in English content you actually enjoy.
So like guilt-free Netflix binging. Sign me up.
Exactly. Think about your favorite shows, movies, music, YouTube, all that can be learning, sneaky learning, but it works.
Love it. But what about if I'm not quite ready to watch a whole movie in English without subtitles? Baby steps, right?
Totally. They got you covered. Start with something familiar, a show you've already seen in your native language, put on the English subtitles, and boom.
You're learning without realizing it.
Right. Because you already know the story, you can focus on the language itself.
That's so smart. And as you get better, ditch the subtitles. Just enjoy the show.
And don't forget music and podcasts. Great for training your ear, picking up slang, the real life stuff.
Which, hey, that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
See, you're already learning just by listening.
Exactly. But we can take it up a notch. Remember that active listening thing. It's not just about letting the sounds wash over you.
Yeah, it's like engaging with it, right? What were those specific techniques again?
So taking notes while listening, jot down new words, phrases, or summarize what you've heard in your own words. It's like a mental workout.
Brain gains. Love it. But let's be real. Life's busy. How do we actually fit in consistent practice? I feel like I'm always saying, I'll do it tomorrow.
That's where micro-learning comes in. The guide is all about it. Instead of needing huge chunks of time, it's about using those little moments we all have.
Micro-learning. Gimme those mini hacks.
Okay, so imagine instead of scrolling social media on your commute, you listen to an English podcast. Or while you're waiting in line, you review flashcards on your phone.
It's like sneaking in learning without even trying.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with those little bits of time we usually waste.
Mind blown. And speaking of things that are everywhere these days, what about those language learning apps? Are they legit or just fancy games?
They can be super helpful, especially for building vocabulary and grammar. Plus, that gamified element keeps things fun, right?
But how do we avoid just clicking through mindlessly, not really absorbing anything?
It's all about being strategic. Don't treat them as a quick fix. Use them to reinforce what you're learning elsewhere, like from reading or conversations.
So it's finding that balance between structured learning and just immersing yourself in English, right?
Bingo. And speaking of immersion, the guide gets pretty wild with it, suggesting ways to make English a part of your daily life without even thinking about it.
Ooh, tell me more.
One of the simplest but most effective. Change your phone and computer settings to English. Boom, you're navigating menus, reading notifications, all in English.
Sneaky. It's like tricking your brain into thinking in English.
Totally. They also suggest going beyond just watching and listening, get involved in online communities, follow English-speaking influencers, real-life exposure.
So it's like a holistic immersion, bringing English into your digital world.
Exactly. But what about those who are ready to level up, go beyond the basics, really refine those skills? The guide has some advanced tricks up its sleeve. Yeah, for those ready to really dive in, the guide has this section called Advanced Techniques for Improvement. And it all starts with, oh boy, the one that makes most people nervous? Speaking?
Ugh, yeah, tell me about it. I used to get full-on panic attacks thinking about speaking English.
It's a big hurdle for sure, but the guy, it kind of reframes it. It's not about being perfect. It's about realizing speaking practice is like the key to unlocking fluency.
Makes sense, I guess, because you can read and understand, but actually talking is a whole other piece.
Right. It's putting all those pieces together, thinking on your feet. It's where the rubber meets the road.
Okay, so speaking is important. Got it. But how do we actually get better without, like, dying of embarrassment? Any baby steps we can take?
They suggest language exchange groups, finding other learners who are also practicing.
Ooh, so it's like misery loves company.
Kinda. But it's more about creating this safe space, No judgment. Everyone's in the same boat.
I like that. Takes the pressure off. Any specific places to find these language buddies?
They mentioned some online platforms like Tandem and HelloTalk. They connect you with people worldwide. You can text, voice call, even video chat, whatever you're comfortable with.
That's cool. So it's like having pen pals, but for speaking practice.
Exactly. And another tip, this one might feel awkward, but it's super helpful. Recording yourself speaking.
Oh, no, not the dreaded self-recording. I always cringe listening back.
I know, right? But it's like having a mirror for your speech. You can hear those little things you might not notice otherwise, like pronunciation, fluency, all that.
Okay, so maybe it's worth the cringe. It's like having a personal coach, but cheaper.
Exactly. And once you've tackled speaking, there's the ever-growing beast of vocabulary.
Ugh, don't even get me started. I learn new words and then they just disappear. Poof, gone.
So relatable. But the guide has some tricks for making those words stick, going beyond just memorizing. It's about like really understanding and using them.
So no more flashcards.
Well, flashcards can be helpful, but they suggest taking it a step further, using new words in context, creating your own examples, making them personal.
So instead of just reading a definition, I gotta like make up a whole sentence with it.
Exactly. They even had this challenge. Learn 5 new words each day and then come up with one sentence using all 5. It's like a brain teaser.
Ooh, I like a challenge. Makes it more fun than just, staring at a word list.
Right. It's about engaging with the language, playing with it.
Love it. Speaking of engaging, what about listening? They always feel so passive, but the guide dedicates a whole section to it.
Because it's super important. Listening is the foundation. It's how we absorb everything, vocab, grammar, even cultural stuff.
True. We talked about active listening earlier, but they suggest applying it beyond just podcasts, right? What else did they mention?
Audiobooks, documentaries, even news broadcasts. The key is choosing stuff you're interested in so you actually pay attention.
Engaged learning, always the theme. And remember those notes we talked about? What about when we hear a word and we're like, wait, what was that?
It's going to happen. Don't sweat it. They emphasize focusing on the overall meaning, not getting hung up on every single word. You can always rewind, listen again. It'll click eventually.
Patience, young Padawan.
Ah!
Okay, we've covered speaking, vocab, listening, and now for the one I always dread, writing.
Ugh, yeah, the dreaded writing practice. But the guide makes it less scary. They present it as a creative outlet, a way to really solidify what you've learned.
I'm more of a talker than a writer. Any suggestions for easing into it without, having a meltdown?
They suggest starting a journal, nothing fancy, just write about your day, your thoughts, whatever. It gets you comfortable with putting those English words on paper.
So like a brain dump, but in English.
Exactly. It gets you thinking in English, practicing grammar naturally.
Okay, I can handle that. But for those ready for more, what are some next level writing challenges?
They encourage gradually expanding, from journaling to maybe short stories, emails, even participating in online forums, stuff that interests you.
So it's finding ways to make writing fun, not just a chore.
Exactly. It's all about integrating it into your life, making it enjoyable.
Love it. Wow, we covered a ton today, from the why of learning English to all these practical tips. My brain's kind of fried, but in a good way.
It's a lot to take in, but that's the beauty of this guide. It emphasizes making the journey fun. It's not about cramming or perfection. It's about finding what works for you.
Totally. It's about those little victories, understanding a song, ordering food confidently, or just connecting with someone in their language. Those are the magic moments.
The guide has this quote that sums it up perfectly. Success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out.
Consistency is key, right? It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up, taking those small steps, and over time, those steps lead to amazing things.
You got it.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible, but it's just the beginning. There's a whole world of English learning out there waiting for you to explore.
So go out there and conquer.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question. Now that you have all these tools, what's one small action you can take today to keep that momentum going? Maybe watch a show with subtitles, learn some new words, anything, just take that step and remember you're capable of incredible things. Until next time, happy learning.
All right, so we're diving into these awesome English speaking tips. And guess what? We're going to use storytelling to help you guys get there. I've been really digging through all these tips, and some of them are so cool. Did you know that simply narrating your day, even just making breakfast or walking the dog, can make a huge difference? There's this story about Jane, who was super shy about speaking, but she started doing that, just narrating her day, and her fluency just took off.
It's funny, we often underestimate how powerful just those everyday activities can be. For language learning, it's all about creating a consistent habit of thinking and speaking in English.
Yeah. I used to struggle with this whole think in English thing. I'd be translating everything in my head before I could even say a word. It was exhausting. And my conversations just felt so clunky. What are some ways to actually shift your thinking into English mode?
Well, that's a common challenge. One really effective technique is to start small. So instead of trying to translate entire sentences, just focus on single words or short phrases. For example, when you see a cat, just think cat in English, not your native language. And then as you get more comfortable, gradually increase the complexity. Another helpful tip is to use visual aids. So surround yourself with English labels, posters, even sticky notes. This constant visual reminder will kind of just nudge your brain to start thinking in English.
So it's like training your brain to make those automatic connections, right? Instead of going through that extra translation step.
Exactly. And speaking of training, the source material really emphasizes the importance of daily practice, even if it's just for 10 or 15 minutes. The key is consistency. Think of it like working out a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
And this story about Raj totally proves your point. He was really focused on improving his pronunciation. So he started imitating the dialogue from his favorite movies, paying attention to the actor's intonation and everything. And guess what? It totally worked. He started to sound so much more natural and fluent.
You know what Raj was doing was actually quite clever. He was intuitively tapping into the power of mimicry, which is a fundamental aspect of language acquisition. When we imitate native speakers, we're not just copying sounds, we're absorbing the subtle nuances of the language, the rhythm, the stress patterns, even the emotional tone.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. It's like when we learn our first language as babies, we're constantly mimicking what we hear around us. So why not apply that same principle to learning English?
Exactly. And this leads us to another crucial point that's emphasized in the source material: learning phrases, not just isolated words.
Okay, this is something I've heard before, but honestly, I never fully understood why it was so important. Can you explain a bit more about the benefits of learning phrases instead of just memorizing individual words?
Sure. So when we learn phrases, we're not just acquiring vocabulary, we're also grasping how words work together. In natural flowing speech, for example, instead of just learning the words give and hand, we learn the phrase, could you give me a hand? This teaches us the grammatical structure, the idiomatic usage, and the natural rhythm of the language.
Oh, so those common phrases become building blocks for conversations. It's much more efficient than trying to piece together individual words in the moment.
Exactly. Imagine trying to build a house brick by brick versus using prefabricated walls. Phrases are those prefabricated walls of language. They help you communicate more fluently and naturally. The source even gives some great examples, like what's up or how's it going?
I never thought of it that way. That's actually a really helpful analogy. So instead of getting bogged down with individual words, we should focus on those everyday phrases and how they're used in context. That's a fantastic takeaway for our listeners.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the beauty of it is you encounter these phrases all the time. In movies.
Yeah.
Music. And everyday conversations. Start paying attention to them. Write them down. And practice using them in your own interactions.
Yeah. I love that. All right, so we've talked about the importance of thinking in English, practicing consistently, and learning phrases. But let's get even more practical. This source has a whole section on using stories to improve fluency. And I have to admit, I was a little skeptical at first, but then they started talking about visualizing the story and really bringing it to life with details. And it clicked for me. I actually tried it with the sample story they gave about a weekend hike. And it was amazing. I felt like I was reliving the experience as I was telling the story in English. Do you find that using your senses helps you remember things better when you're learning a language?
Absolutely. Our brains are wired to remember things that are emotionally charged and sensory rich. So when you actively engage your senses while you're telling a story in English, like the sights, sounds, smells, you're creating those stronger neural connections, making it much easier to recall the vocabulary and the grammar. It's like turning your brain into a high-definition movie studio.
I love that analogy. It makes so much sense. And speaking of making things stick, this source also recommends recording yourself speaking English. Oh, I used to cringe when I would listen back to my early recordings. But it really helped me pinpoint areas where I needed to improve. It was like having a personal language coach in my pocket.
Yeah, such a valuable tool
Yeah.
for self-assessment. You can hear your pronunciation, your intonation, the overall flow of your speech. You might notice things you weren't even aware of, like maybe using filler words too often or speaking too quickly.
Oh, totally. I used to say and like all the time. But hearing it back on a recording made me so much more conscious of it. And over time, I was able to break those habits.
Exactly. It's all about becoming aware of
Yeah.
your own speech patterns and then making those conscious efforts to improve.
Yeah, for sure. You know, another thing that really stood out to me in these tips was the power of asking questions. It seems so simple,
Yeah.
but it's such an effective way to keep conversations flowing and build your confidence.
Asking questions not only demonstrates like your engagement, but it also encourages the other person to share their thoughts and experiences. It kind of takes the pressure off of you to constantly come up with things to say, and it creates a more dynamic and engaging interaction.
Right. And they suggest using those open-ended questions like, what do you think about? Or
Yeah.
how is your seat? Which is a great tip. Those kinds of questions invite more detailed responses and
Wow.
give you more opportunities to listen and learn.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand something, native speakers are usually happy to explain or rephrase things. It shows that you're actively listening and you're eager to learn.
Absolutely. It's all about showing genuine interest and engaging with the conversation. Okay, one last tip from this section that I found really intriguing: expanding your vocabulary with context.
Yeah, learning new words in isolation can be a bit like trying to memorize a phone book. It's dry and it's difficult to retain. But when you encounter words in context, within sentences and stories, they come alive. They suddenly have meaning and purpose.
Yeah, they give the example of the word serene used in the sentence. The lake was serene, surrounded by mountains. And it's so true. You can instantly picture the scene and understand the feeling the word is trying to convey.
Exactly. The sentence provides clues to the meaning of the word serene. You can infer that it describes a peaceful, calm, and tranquil atmosphere. And that visual imagery helps cement the word in your memory.
Okay, so I've always kind of found the idea of role-playing a bit intimidating, but this source makes a really compelling case for it. They say it's like a dress rehearsal for real-life conversations, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's like a safe space to experiment, make mistakes, and build your confidence. Think about those situations where you might feel a little nervous using English, like ordering food, asking for directions, making a phone call. Role-play those scenarios can really help you feel more prepared and less anxious when you actually encounter them in real life.
Right. They even provide this example scenario of ordering at a cafe. Want to give it a try?
Sure.
Okay, so imagine I'm the customer and you're the barista. Okay, I'm feeling brave. I'm going to go for it. Hi there. I'd love to try one of your lattes. What would you recommend?
Okay, welcome to our cafe. We have a variety of delicious lattes. Do you prefer something sweet, or are you looking for more of a classic flavor?
I'm feeling adventurous today. What's your most unique latte?
Let's see. Our lavender honey latte is a customer favorite. It's a beautiful balance of floral and sweet notes.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I'll have that, please.
Excellent choice. One lavender honey latte coming right up.
See?
Yeah.
That wasn't so bad. I actually felt pretty comfortable using those phrases and responding in real time.
Yeah. And the more you practice, the more natural it'll become. You can even involve like friends or family members in your role plays to make it even more fun and interactive.
That's a great idea. It kind of turns language practice into a game almost. Okay, so the source also talks about the benefits of joining English-speaking communities. And they share this really cool story about Ahmed, who joined an English-speaking book club. Not only did his speaking improve, but he also made new friends and expanded his cultural horizons.
Yeah. Ahmed's story really highlights like the social and emotional benefits of language learning. You know, it's not just about grammar and vocabulary. It's about connecting with people, sharing experiences, and broadening your perspectives.
It's about finding your tribe, those people who share your passion for the language and can support you on your learning journey.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is there are so many different types of communities out there, like book clubs, hiking groups, online forums, language exchange partners.
So think about your interests. your hobbies, your goals. What kind of community would you feel most comfortable in, most engaged in?
Yeah, the key is to find a space where you can use English authentically and connect with people who share your passions.
Well, this brings us to the end of our deep dive into these incredible English speaking tips. I have to say, I've learned so much from going through all these sources with you.
It's been a pleasure exploring these techniques together. Remember, the most important thing is to enjoy the process, embrace the challenges, celebrate those victories, and never stop exploring the beautiful world of language.
Yes. And for all of you listening out there, remember that fluency comes one step at a time. Keep practicing, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. Until next time, happy speaking.